Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Claire Fraise and I am an award-winning young adult author who makes videos on this channel sharing the actionable writing tips that helped me make my own writing better. And today I'm going to be breaking down the fourth step of the hero's journey, which is meeting the mentor. This video is part of my 12 video series on the hero's journey, breaking down each step individually, telling you what it is, what it does in the story, and how to write a good one. So if you want to be notified when future videos in this series are posted, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, and also like this video while you're at it. I make videos on this channel sharing craft tips. I've taken a lot of classes in creative writing over the years as I've learned to write, and on this channel, I make videos sharing all of the different things that I learned from professors or classes or books or things like that that really helped me see writing in a new way and helped me take my writing to the next level. So if you're interested in that, also make sure you subscribe to my channel. I do live streams on this channel. I break down craft things in detail while live, so you can ask me any questions. I also do live writing sprints and make a couple of videos a week. So subscribe if you want to. If you're interested in the hero's journey, stick around because I will be diving into it now. My book, They Stay, over here, is a young adult supernatural thriller about a 16-year-old girl whose younger brother goes missing, and she goes on this supernatural adventure to save her when one of her classmates approaches her and tells her that one of the ghosts in the town cemetery knows where her younger brother is, so she has to grapple with whether ghosts are real and then end up going on kind of a creepy quest to go save her brother. It's young adult thriller with a splash of horror, so if that sounds interesting to you, check it out. And this over here is the sequel to that book, They Whisper, which came out a couple months ago, and They Return, the third book in that series, is coming out shortly. I am writing that right now. So without further ado, let's just dive into the video. So first I'm going to give you a brief overview if you haven't seen my previous videos about what the hero's journey is, but you can skip over that in the timestamps if you already know. Then I'm going to talk about what the fourth stage of the hero's journey is, what meeting the mentor is, and what usually takes place during it. Then I'm going to give you some examples of famous mentors in the series, and I'm going to close it out by talking about all of the different things that you need to make sure your mentor does in order to be a very strong mentor in your story. So first, what is the hero's journey? The hero's journey was a story structure developed by Joseph Campbell in his book, A Hero with a Thousand Faces. It breaks down, he studied a bunch of different stories that were famous throughout history, and he came up with his theory about the similarities that all of these popular stories shared in their structure, and then he created the hero's journey around what he observed from those stories. So typically the hero's journey follows one character, the hero, as he leaves his ordinary world, his state of normalcy, and he goes on some kind of adventure and changes over the course of the adventure and then returns to this ordinary world somehow different. The hero's journey is probably the first story structure that is actually taught. It is very prevalent throughout media. You can see it in any stories from Star Wars movies to Disney movies. I love the hero's journey because of the way that it focuses on one character and the journey that they take. So that's why I'm doing a series on it, because I really, really like it. First stage of the hero's journey is the ordinary world. The ordinary world shows the hero in their state of normalcy before they embark on their adventure. The second stage of the hero's journey is the call to adventure, and this is when they get their first brush with the adventure and journey that they're going to be taking over the course of the hero's journey. Then the third stage of the hero's journey is the refusal of the call, because typically the hero brushes against the adventure, decides, oh, maybe that's really not for me, I'm a little bit scared, and they don't want to go on the adventure at the beginning. And the fourth stage of the hero's journey, which is the stage that we're going to be talking about today, is when that hero, when he's a little nervous, meets the mentor character in the story that is able to give the hero a little push, which allows them to be propelled into the rest of the story. It's the little push that hero needs in order to embark on that hero's journey and accept the call to adventure. TheWritePractice.com gives a really good definition of the hero's journey and what the hero has to do when meeting the mentor, and I'm going to read it to you right now. Meeting the mentor occurs after the hero has been called to adventure and discovered that the task ahead will be incredibly difficult. The mentor then provides the hero with training, physical, mental, spiritual, or a combination thereof, and often accompanies the hero on the journey. The mentor is frequently an older, wiser character no longer able to fulfill the heroic role on their own. So there are 5 types of mentors according to the Right Practice, And the first one is a guide, the second is a trainer, the third is a father or mother, the fourth is a priest or monk, and the fifth is a counselor. And the example characters that the Right Practice gives for each of these types of mentors in their article is, firstly, for the guide character, they give the example of Gandalf from the Fellowship of the Ring. And secondly, for the trainer, they give the stereotypical like Karate Kid trainer, the Matrix trainer, those kinds of trainers that like help the character get into shape. The third example is the third example for the father and mother figure that they give is the relationship between Tony Stark and Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming. This kind of fatherly attention that Stark gives Peter is the kind of connection that he needs in order to be able to rise to the occasion and be Spider-Man. The example that they give in the priest/monk character is the grandmother Willow in Disney's Pocahontas. And the example that they give for the counselor is Hagrid in Harry Potter. He is a caretaker and keeper of keys at Hogwarts. This article is really awesome because it also gives you some tips for how to twist these traditional archetypes and innovate around them and make them a little more creative. So I have linked this article in the description of this video, and I highly recommend going to check it out because it's super detailed. So now that we've talked about what a mentor is, why do stories need mentors? I would argue that they don't. A lot of stories don't have mentors, but if you want to have a refusal of the call, typically you need to have some sort of external force pushing the hero onto the journey in order for them to go on the journey. It's rare for them to refuse the call and then just decide that they were being silly and then going and accepting the call to adventure all on their own. You kind of need this external force to help shove them into the hero's journey. I also think that having the refusal of the call makes heroes a lot of the times more relatable, and it helps give them more of a beginning stage for their character growth, because the whole point of the hero's journey is that they start out as an ordinary guy and then they ultimately end up being a hero, but they don't start off a hero. So typically they start off as like an ordinary person who, if they were told that they were the last remaining human on Earth who is capable of stopping this alien invasion, they would be like, isn't there someone else who could do that? I don't really feel like doing that. I don't know why it would be me. You need some kind of external thing to push them in that direction. So usually that takes the form of a mentor. And it's also kind of a common archetype in stories that is familiar in some way. There is a lot of debate in writing classes and stuff. I've always heard people discuss the difference or the clash between wanting to be super original and also wanting to write something familiar, because people love familiarity and they gravitate towards stories that feel familiar to them or that give them the same cozy feeling that they had while reading when they were kids, or things that they've seen before that they like. But you also want to be original, so like having an original twist on a mentor is a great way to combine being original with being familiar. So that's another argument for having a mentor character in your book. Also, I want to note that the mentor doesn't have to be a person. The examples that are given in that article are mainly people, but mentors can also be things like pieces of information that they get, different stakes or events that happen, just things. They're like mentors, like things just to kind of shove the hero into the adventure, even if they're a little bit unwilling, or help them realize why they need to step up to the plate and why they are the only ones who can go and take on this big conflict. So what are some examples of mentors? In past videos, I've used the movie Moana to illustrate the hero's journey because I think that it is the perfect example of the hero's journey. It just hits every single beat in the hero's journey, and it's a really fun movie that's quick to watch, and it'll really give you a good idea of how the hero's journey works. But the mentor character in Disney's Moana, I would argue, I know that I had a screenwriting professor in college say that it was actually a different character in Moana, but I very strongly believe that the mentor in Moana is Moana's grandmother, because she enters the story exactly when the mentor typically enters the story, and she exits the story exactly when the mentor would typically exit the story. So Disney's Moana tells the story of a young girl named Moana who lives on the Polynesian island of Motunui, and she grows up loving being outside and being in the ocean, but her people are very scared of the ocean, especially her father, and always tries to keep her away from the ocean. And they used to be voyagers, but they are no longer voyagers, and they're very insular on their island, and they don't like going past the reef. But when there are things that start happening to the island, like food starts to rot and all of their fishing sources are dying out, they are starting to be in a very sticky situation. So in order to save her island and her people, Moana embarks on a quest to go restore the heart of Te Fiti and save her island and stop it from banishing all the fish and getting rid of all the food. Moana feels very drawn to the ocean, but she doesn't understand why, and it's her grandmother that shows her the history of her people and explains what is happening and explains what she has to do in order to save the island. And after she does that and gives Moana the power and the understanding and the knowledge, even though she's scared, even though she was knocked off her boat, even though she's starting to have her confidence shaken and she doesn't think that she can do it, her grandmother gives her the push that she needs in order for Moana to go and embark on her journey. And as Moana is embarking on her journey, her grandmother passes away. It's possible Moana still would have gone on that quest had her grandmother not been there to guide her, but it is more unlikely because it's because of her grandmother's help that she was able to embark confidently with the knowledge and full understanding and scope of where she was going and what she needed to do in order to accomplish her goal. So Moana's grandmother would fall under the category of a father or mother figure, a parental figure, and she, throughout the story, had always understood Moana more than everyone else in the village, and Moana felt extremely close to her grandmother, which is why she was a wise and trustworthy figure to help Moana embark on her quest. So what do you need to do in order to create a good mentor character? Well, I would argue that you would need 4 things. The first is that you'd want your mentor to be trustworthy. Moana's grandmother was trustworthy because Moana and her grandmother had always had this extremely close bond when Moana was growing up. And so because Moana trusted her so wholeheartedly, the viewers also trusted her. In a very traditional hero's journey setting, you don't want to have your mentor doing things like the scene before to undermine your hero or to manipulate your hero in some way. You want them to be trustworthy so the audience knows, or at least the hero is able to trust them to give them the kick in the butt that they need to go on the story. If your hero doesn't trust them, they're not actually going to go embark on the quest. You can always have a mentor that betrays the hero in some way later on in the story. That is not as common. I can't think of a movie where I've seen that, but I'm absolutely sure that they exist, and I'm sure that you can pull it off in a way that it works. But then you would have to have the thing that gets the hero on the journey. That would be kind of the tangible either knowledge or something that the mentor would impart to the hero, not just the presence of the mentor in the hero's life. Like Moana would have been a very different story if it was revealed in Act 3 that her grandmother set her up to be killed by an ocean monster. That it would feel very different. So if you want to write a different, if you want it to have that unsettling feeling, then maybe you can explore that. The second thing that you want your mentor figure to be/do in your story is resemble a relationship that your readers may also have with somebody. People in the audience would be able to relate to the relationship that Moana has with her grandmother, which makes her grandmother as a mentor inherently more trustworthy and easy for the audience to connect to and see as a mentor figure in their own lives. The third thing, and this kind of goes without saying, is that you want your mentor to be knowledgeable and to also move the story along in some way. You don't want to have a mentor that is completely oblivious to the conflict that you have going on or completely oblivious to the things that you want to have happen in your story, so make sure that your mentor is adequately placed and has a history that is relevant, or a field of knowledge that is extremely relevant, or a perspective and opinion on a conflict that will be helpful to your hero. Put them in a position of power and ultimately put them in a position that reflects the position that your hero will ultimately end up in. The reason that the mentor is not going on the quest themselves has to be because of some reason, like either they're too old or they have a certain handicap or they don't have a certain special power. But if they did have that, they would be perfectly capable of going on the quest themselves. And honestly, probably better than the hero at the beginning of completing the quest, but there has to be some sort of reason why they don't go on the quest themselves. Otherwise, what's the point? They could just do it themselves. And the fourth and final reason, and this is not always applicable, but it is applicable in quite a few different cases, is that your mentor has to die. A lot of mentors die tragic deaths in stories. Not all mentors, but a lot of mentors do have to leave the story in some way, and oftentimes that happens when the mentor dies, and that death is emotionally resonant enough to propel the protagonist or give them the extra boost that they need in order to do the really hard thing and defeat the villain and complete their journey. You can have your mentor present throughout all of the events of the story. You can have them maybe exit the story later on down the line, but keep it in the back of your mind that you have to have a very compelling reason why your mentor did not actually embark on the quest themselves, and try to use the mentor in order to fulfill its role in propelling the hero. And sometimes the best way to do that is by killing off the mentor and giving that kind of emotional push to the hero to give them what they need to save the day. That is kind of my thoughts on the 4th stage of the hero's journey, meeting the mentor. If you have any questions about the stage of the hero's journey, please let me know in the comments. Or if you are writing a story based on the hero's journey and want to give me a description of what your mentor is like, I can give you some feedback over on what I think about your mentor. And if you have any questions about ways you can improve it, I could give you some feedback. Super happy to chat with you in the comments about any of this. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. As I mentioned at the beginning, I make videos on craft stuff that I have learned over the years and that I want to share with you because I find it helpful myself. So like this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I post future Hero's Journey videos. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great week, and as always, happy writing.